Absolutely.
Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Notice for this meeting was given in advance thereof by publishing one time in the Keith County News and posting at the City Administration Building as shown by the certificate of posting notice. Notice of this meeting was simultaneously given to the president and all members of the council. Availability of the agenda was communicated in the advance notice and the notice to the president and council of this meeting. All proceedings hereafter will be taken while this convened meeting is open to the attendance of the public. This meeting is being convened in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. Copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in the southeast corner of the council chambers. Please sign the sign-in sheet located on the table by members of the press. Any person wishing to address the council may do so by standing. When you're recognized, please go to the podium. State your name and the organization, interest, or person you represent before you begin speaking. Thank you. Roll call.
Block.
Here.
Dupierre.
Here.
Holstein.
Here.
Kraske.
Here.
Lappin.
Here.
All right, under our consent agenda, we have the minutes of the special meeting held March 11th, 2025. We have the minutes of the regular meeting held March 11th, 2025. We have the claims. We have our community development, CDBG 22 TD 002 SKB service invoice for $33,154.75. And we have appointment to board, the Oil Tree Board, 3 members, Jeffrey Lampman, 2-year term, January 1, 2025 to December 31st, 2026.
I move to approve the consent agenda. I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilman Block and a second by Councilman Holstein. There's no discussion. Council, please vote.
Yes.
Motion carried. We have no public hearing this evening. Under public forum, we have public service update, or excuse me, people service update.
John Sauer, lead operator. We presented you with used to getting up here. A report for February. Wanted to see if anybody had any questions about the report.
I do appreciate the comprehensive report now that comes through. It's really nice to see that. You guys starting to get geared up towards spring, warmer weather, really glad for it.
Yeah, it's already, we're getting a lot of locates, we're already, very active out in the community. Doing the required maintenance. One of the things I wanted to bring up to you guys is let you know what's going on. Out at the sewer plant, I know it's kind of the subject, I'm gonna just put it that way. Last month we had a water coil in the influent building go bad. It's went bad before they patched it, when they was able to get it put back together. Thank goodness it's not as, I mean, it's warmed up a little bit. We're not, temperatures aren't hitting as cold as what it was before. This last time it blew apart, they estimated around 13 holes in it. And so they didn't want to attempt to patch it. we ordered a new one. We're looking at 2 to 3 weeks to get that in, which we're down to about 2 weeks, I believe. I think it's been about a week since we ordered it. But that building, that part of the building don't have any heat in it, and so so you know that we've got that going on. And then when we did our walk around, I think you noticed, Kevin, that we had some drain issues.
Yes.
We're trying to resolve that. I've got some ideas on what we can possibly do out there. I'm gonna meet with Superior tomorrow. And if we know it's not a permanent fix, what we wanna do and what I'm trying to do right now is eliminate the water pools, in the floors of that digester plant. And it's concerning to me, the safety issue. I'm trying to push to at least get a temporary fix in there. Whatever we do, it's gonna be expensive. The permanent fix, it's gonna be expensive, so. But for the short term, I'm just trying to get the water out of the building.
Have you determined if it's a plug somewhere or if it's,
We don't know if it's a bad pipe. We can't get to it from the inside, and we're gonna try to jet with a bigger jetter tomorrow and see how far we can get in from the outside in and see if we can get a Camry in there. We was able to get in about 20 feet before. And with us trying to jet it with the little jetter we've got, it was breaking it loose, but it wasn't pulling it out. And so we're down to only being able to get into 5 feet. There's that much sediment in there. And so I'm hoping that we can get that big jetter in there and get either their camera or their locator in there and tell us, where we need to go to do a patch, at least so that we can make a temporary patch until we can figure out how to do it right.
Mr. President, we've got a few repairs like John's. We're trying to limp along until we get that surface water revolving fund in place. We're still waiting on that from the state. John's done a good job of keeping the plant going. The heat exchanger he's talking about, it's good that it's warm or we'd be in a crisis. In addition, we've had some additional leakage from above. Just went down on the main electrical panel, which that's the second time we've had that issue again, so. We're trying to forge ahead as efficiently as possible.
John has a cross training going. I know water and sewer were supposed to, start
We
learning each other's roles.
We trade employees every week. Both of the sewer plant people. I'm not supposed to say it. Both of the divisional people out there come over on the water side and of course, training. You learn the best when something's going on. We're sending people on the water side out there. And anytime they have anything go on out there, we send somebody out there. Obviously, we can't send the whole crew out there a lot of times. When we had the shutdown, we all went out and seen how to restart everything. But we are getting people back and forth.
So the goal is to have more, if not all. Our operators certified, licensed.
Yes. Multiple certifications and
Yep.
cross training, yes.
Good.
The other thing I wanted to, touch on is, the meter replacement. We are, kind of had some setback with the weather because I didn't want to send people in the houses, you know, with the snow that we had and the cold weather and stuff. But we are, we had some people even that let us, know it was really cold. But we are getting meters replaced. It's not, a great big number of them, but I mean, you know, they were hoping we'd be able to get, you know, 10 a day and there's just not that many people around. We're gonna get to the point where we're gonna have to be sending letters out to get into the buildings because we just can't get a hold of anybody. So we're trying right now to do door knockers and actually contact at the doors, trying to catch people at home, but the next thing we're gonna probably have to be doing is sending letters out.
Are you trying to do an area, or do you have some target homes you're trying to do, or?
What we're trying to do is the first part of the routes, we're trying to replace them meters first. And we're trying to get the meters that are not radio reads, because we have, some of the meters we have are retrofits. So they radio read, but they're an old meter that really needs to be replaced, but we're trying to get them all so that we're radio reading them and to speed up that process. And so, but we started at Route 1 and we're trying to get the first part of the routes done first. Obviously, we've had some come up with stop meters that we went ahead and did. Because they have to be replaced anyway, so, but the goal was to the first part of the routes.
Any other questions for John? John, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope the more I come, the better I'll be able to not be so nervous up here. So thanks a lot, you guys.
Thanks,
Have a
John.
good evening.
See.
All right, moving on, we have, Chuck Kraft, speed limit reduction on West Highway 30 to the state.
Good evening. Want to address the speed. Who's the biggest money changer here in town? Anybody got an idea?
Sale barn.
Who's our biggest asset? What's our biggest asset in town?
Suzuki.
No,
Hospital.
people. People's lives. Those are the two things I want to address tonight. Let's protect both. For the record, there's a petition passed to people. There's roughly 125 names. They're all residents of the state of Nebraska. That is a state highway. The reason I did that is because, hey, I'm just one person. There's other people thinking about this same thing, but they haven't ever expressed it to you. Or maybe 20 years ago and it never got addressed and somebody never carried it on through. How far does it take for an 80,000 pound truck to stop? Going 50 miles an hour.
300 feet, football field.
Football field, correct. If it's going 65 miles an hour, it's 528 feet. What's the legal weight trucks can go on the highway?
80,000.
No,
Oh, 100.
he got tripled. Yeah. He'd go up to 100,000. There's trucks pulling in and out of the sale barn. Weighing that, there's trucks sure weighing 80,000 pounds going all the way through town, not pulling off to either Mead Lumber, Kelly Bean, nor the sale barn. One particular intersection here in town, and it's in the city limit. Gonna address that. But first, you know what that's that right? What's that mean? $50 miles an hour after you pass the sign, not when you see the sign.
Are these, Chuck, are these ours to keep then?
Those are your copies, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I venture to say that when people hit the Cenex location, it's foot to the floor. Maybe not if you're in a car, but you're pressing down on it. It's just human nature. Okay. Let's take a look at this particular intersection. Kelly Bean, getting trucks coming in during harvest time. They get about 4,000 entrances during harvest time. So that's spread out over a couple months. Of course, then there's a shipping out. American Suzuki. They've got a little, somewhere around 100 employees. Okay, coming and entering, exiting and entering Highway 30. That's 200 if they go home and at lunchtime, 250 plus entrances. The animal clinic gets about 100 drop-ins per day. Just walking in or driving in. That's all in a cluster along with the sale barn. Sale barn, Jay's going to address some more of this here in a little bit. But there's roughly 18,000 entrances and exits of trucks and pickups and trailers spread out mainly over 3 days a week for about 30 weeks. Okay. Then you've got the people, the buyers that come in to this money machine that we've got here in town. Because remember, that money buys vehicles, they buy fast food, they go down to Walmart. I suppose you kind of hope that maybe they'll go spend some of their hard-earned money at the racetrack, but that remains to be seen. So that's kind of the situation as far as for that particular location. I don't know if anybody's from the state here. Okay. I was hoping maybe they'd be here. They were invited because I talked to Matt Neiman. He called me 10 days ago. Which is over another issue that will be on the next agenda item. There's 4 highways. Mainly go east and west in Nebraska, main heavily traveled ones. 34, Highway 34, southern Nebraska. I'm not real sure, because I don't get on that road hardly ever. So I don't know what the speed limit's going through. Let's take Highway 30. Sutherland, 40 miles per hour all the way through town. Here we are in Oglala at 50 miles per hour at the west end. Let's take Highway 2. Heavily traveled. How many of you been to Halsey? How big is it? About size of Roscoe.
Yeah, not very big.
It's down to 35 miles per hour going through Halsey. Ansley, 40, 45, slower than us. And they don't have the truck traffic we do, nor the lake traffic either. Valentine. Their sale barn isn't as large as ours. But that speed limit's 35 there. It's 40. It drops down to 35 before you get to the sale barn turn off coming from the east. So let's decrease our speed limit, make it safe. Now, there's another picture on here. Because what does that mean? Pass that around. Stay on safe.
Yep, stay on.
For those of you in the audience, it's the paint that's down there at the sale barn. Turning in to the right. How many vehicles? You're turning into the sale barn, make a right-hand turn. How many times do truckers, cars cross that solid yellow line? That's illegal. Who's gonna be held liable for the accident? I think probably since first of the year. One business owner told me there's been probably right at 2 accidents so far this calendar year in that stretch. 50 miles an hour, and it could be more than that. I know there was a guy killed outside of Senex, was that about 15 years ago? On Highway 30? How many of you were here? You were probably gone. See, you were. Remember?
I do.
Yeah.
But I don't remember, it seemed like it was shorter than 15.
Yeah, I don't think it was 15 years ago. I think it was closer to 10.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought. Yeah.
It was, cause I had to respond.
Okay, all right. Speed definitely was a factor.
Without a doubt.
Let's make our towns safe to enter and exit. Let's protect our dollars and our lives. I'm gonna turn it over to Jay now.
Chuck, you're pretty hard to follow, but I'll do my best here. I'm Jay Nordhausen, co-owner of Oglaw Livestock. And Chuck just invited me down here to visit after he talked about his viewpoint on the speed reduction west of town on Highway 30. As Chuck mentioned, we do have the largest livestock auction facility in the state of Nebraska. We sell about 175,000 head. To put this in perspective and for you guys to understand how much money our customers and people that are purchasing cattle, just in the month of January, our gross sales were $66 million. Okay, so if you do that over a year, I mean, you're looking over at $300 million plus going in and out of that parking lot. So, yeah, it's not profit at all. This is what our customers are bringing their livelihood to town to be marketed in a competitive bidding platform, okay? So it's very important to us that those cattle and the people, like Chuck said, are turning into the sale barn safely and getting back on the highway safely. I don't know how many times, and of course, I live just west of the sale barn now, where the speed limit changes from 50 to 60. And you want to talk about people, I'll turn off going to my house and they'll be by the lumber store. And by the time I'm turning, they're right behind me. I mean, it's a definite issue. And the confusion with people turning down the street by the animal clinic, or if they're going to the sale barn, I mean, that causes problems as well. So, you know, a livestock auction market in terms of economic impact for a town of 5,000 people, a lot of studies have said that we bring $2 million back to the community. That's probably not on this volume of sales like we have. Okay, we're probably looking at closer to, I would say, 10 million I don't know that to be a fact, but I would say it would probably be close for economic community impact for our business, so. I just appreciate your guys' time. If you have any questions for me, I'm willing to answer anything, but I just wanted to, bring up, you know, the importance of speed reduction at that span right there on the highway,
Got
so,
a question for you.
yes.
Where do you see the most danger coming headed east or headed west turning in?
Um,
Or is it both? Okay.
I mean. Them guys like coming from in the mornings when I'm turning, going to the sale barn, I mean, people are whistling into town. They are coming pretty fast. I mean, I think it should be a speed reduction to the junction. I really do. Cause they get on there and they go. In the summer times, I mean, it's pretty concerning when they're headed out of town. It's worse to me in the summer. So, I mean, I got 3 little girls. They're probably gonna be driving here shortly. I don't really feel very comfortable with them turning on that highway each and every day, multiple times a day. I mean, it's not the best situation there, so.
I used to work out at, it was Reed, Maryland at the time, and then we moved, but anyway, you had to be paying attention when you pull out, because I think that traffic there is coming about 60 miles,
Yeah.
60 mile an hour, and
Yeah,
one whoops, and
oh yeah, I've done it before. I mean, I
Yeah.
pulled out and then had to go into the cheater lane to have them go by me, so. Yeah. Is there anything else?
Go ahead, Chuck.
Reason I brought this here because I talked to the state and they said I had to come to you folks first.
Okay.
You have to make the recommendation to the state, as I understand, correct?
I believe that's correct.
Okay, that's one reason why I brought up the other speed limits in the other towns. We're the highest of all those.
Here's my view. Anybody have any other questions for Jay? Here's my
Thank you,
view.
guys.
I think we should support it, a reduction in the speed limit. The corporate limits go out to, I don't know, it used to be Halligan's, I don't know what they call it now, the insurance office out there. It's just east of, the junction out there, so it's.
Cemetery.
Well, it's a little past Cemetery Road because it takes in that Johnson subdivision out there where the wrecker is now and all that stuff. And then it goes, it's odd because it goes out further east, just into a little point of a land along the highway. So we have about 2 miles of Highway 30 in our corporate limits. I don't know what the rest of the council's opinion is, but I think we could support, a change in the speed limit. And the state will come out, they'll do the study, they'll recommend the speeds. And we can ask them to push it down too.
Steve, I drove that both directions, and I think when people are coming from the east, they're at O Street going to, to the school. That's pretty speedy right there too, and that's one lane there,
Yeah.
and yeah, I would support looking at that speed.
I mean, all we can do is ask for a change. Now, if state recommends no change, that's out of our hands at that point, but we can always take it to the state level.
Well, and then we can have some aggressive enforcement out there too. So, Dr. Foy, you had your hand up.
Well, I was gonna address the council.
Come on up.
If you're happy with that.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
My name's Paul Foy. I used to, co-owner of the animal clinic for about 40 years and, 40 years ago when traffic came through town, you kind of saunter into traffic in and out without even paying much attention to oncoming traffic, except for the sale barn, which was always busy. But 40 years later, that traffic coming through there is is pretty serious, and, if your speed limit. You know, your speed limit was 50, okay? So when you see a speed limit sign that says 50, you immediately think you can go 60, because nobody's gonna stop you at 60. So if you're at 40, you can go 50. That's just kind of the way the mentality is, okay? So if the recommendation would be to go to 40, that would be fine with me. But I understand that the city's gonna have to enforce that, and however that works with the police department, you know. The other thing is, I don't think Jake breaks are legal in town. Maybe they are, I don't know. But you ought to hear all the Jake breaks out there at the sale barn when people are pulling in and off of West O from Shizuki, either coming in or going home. These big trucks are coming in there and they're trying to put the whoa on that thing before they cream a car, you know? So I'm just saying, you know, so far we haven't had to dig a hole yet, but, you know, kind of think about that. You know, and the only other comment I'd have to make is, Jay, you ought to be tickled to death. There ain't anybody from the IRS here. Thank you.
Thanks.
Maybe there are. We got a pretty big audience tonight. Yeah. So, any other comments from council? I
think that's pretty easy to support.
would think so. So,
Tell them to write a letter.
let's get started.
What if, would we be able to request at that bypass junction to eastbound into Ogallala, drop that down to 50 and kind of get a slower speed limit once corporate city limits and drop that down to 40?
I think they'll give us some recommendations and you know, see if we can work with it within that.
Go to 35 and then you can negotiate.
Yeah, well, you know, I know there's something that you can't change from like a 60 to a 20 mile.
Yeah, I think it's.
You gotta step it down.
20 miles an hour between zones.
Yeah. 20 it's 20. So we can go 65, 45, and 25. But we can make those zones.
You're going to 50 to 35.
Yeah, where I mean, you know, the traffic engineers, they'll come back with, you know, what we need to push down, but
Yeah.
we'll definitely let them know that we're, have strong support for that. Doesn't take any action, city manager, Wilkins will start the, process. And we'll keep you updated, Chet.
Thank you.
And it'll also be on our website. All right, moving on, Chuck Graff, proposed state modification to single lane traffic with center turn lane. Are you gonna quiz us again? I wish you would have known how it's studied.
Yeah. How many of you noticed a change here today on Highway 30 at the viaduct? Did you come down there, by there tonight? Sheriff Hart or Police Chief Herman knew about it. Back in November, I met with DOT, Nebraska, Bob down here, the manager, and showed him of a concern there at the bottom of the viaduct. And he said he'd pass it on to the state. And I want to give the state kudos for finally addressing something. When Matt Neiman called me 10 days ago, that was one of the issues. He said, yeah, our engineer made a mistake on how far back the eastbound lane on the north side, how far forward you can pull. The guy running his little computer, he plugged in a tandem dually truck. He didn't plug in a triple with being pulled by a triple cab tractor. They've got white strips across there tonight.
Saw that today, actually.
I said, that I do. I would kind of venture to say that that guy that said where to put that mark, though, I double dare him to stand out there for when trucks make the turn at the viaduct. Because I think he'll be roadkill by the end of the day. Still. Needs to be back a little bit more. Engineers can make mistakes. But they admitted it, so I appreciate that. 40-some years ago. I don't know. Maybe Jim McQuillan, your dad, he was alive, he could tell us when the wide streets came in Ogallala. Was it all horse and buggy days? Somebody had some foresight. Common sense. Let's don't abandon our common sense. 7 o'clock. Last Thursday. In the morning. Double lanes. Being utilized. Headed east to the school. If I'd been there when the trucks were coming from the sale barn. I'd had another picture, but I wasn't gonna stand out there quick stop that get me for loitering. Our traffic is void sometimes of the day. Sometimes we got heavy traffic, seriously. Sundays, coming off of the lake. We want to keep that business going down here to the interstate. Have you kind of thought about that? Go get a Coke for the kids, Wendy's, McDonald's. I guarantee you, if you have a single lane traffic going down that road, they will only stop in Ogallala one time. No, we aren't gonna stay headed south, waiting for the stoplight, because the traffic coming from the west is 2 blocks long. They aren't gonna wait that long. They're gonna go on to the bypass. There's one plan that I'd seen that talks about parking along Highway 30, if they make that a single lane. Well, that probably would be convenient for little Jerry's in the underpass when I go in there at night. Be convenient for me to find my car sitting right outside there, parked there. But it doesn't make sense. The other thing, when you've got single lane traffic, center lane turn, that's all fine and dandy when you're turning left. How about somebody that has to stop when they're turning right or slow down? What does that do to the traffic? That slows down the traffic behind. Whereas now with the double lane, someone wants to turn on the viaduct, and those that want to continue on down Highway 30 to the east, they can be in the northbound lane. They go right on through. I do not believe that whoever came up with the flow stating that it made no difference having a single lane coming through Ogallala versus 2 lanes for time traveling through town. I do not believe that. Yeah, it might be when there's very little traffic, but when you've got traffic times of the day, you got, what happens when we've got like last week? When we had the interstate shut down. Boom. Solid traffic. The poor people that want to do some business here in town, they're getting hung up in that traffic. Don't think it's wise. I asked the city council to reconsider. As I understood, you made an approval with the state for going to single lane, is that correct, or am I incorrect?
We had a sporting resolution.
Yep. I asked that you rescind that.
Well,
There's some other people that I know that, gonna make some points to, but that's kind of a
no brainer if those people, those traffic engineers, I'd like to know the time when they're coming, what day of the week that they're here. Because you can skew that whole traffic thing here in Ogallala real easy. You can make it what you want it to, but the reality is, we gotta keep the traffic moving and available all 24 hours. So, Desiree, did you?
Desiree copy, copy strictly, so I sent Mr. Wilkins a letter, did you get, were you able to get that forwarded?
No, I did not.
I brought her. I'll just touch base real quick since you, a few issues that we see having a business on Highway 30. So we work on semis, as you know, and most of the semis that are coming from the west need more than a lane to turn in any business. If they have a trailer on, they use a lane and have to turn it. That will affect just as the tire shops. Take it down to a single lane. If there's somebody in the turning lane, they won't be able to make that turn until they close their turn. That's one of our concerns. When the interstate shuts down, right now, just the last time it was shut down last summer, with the 2 lanes of traffic, you could see past Cenex. We couldn't, I mean, it took us a while to get out of business because it's backed up that long with, and that's with 2 lanes. So I'm worried if you take it down to a single lane, how far back are you gonna be backing traffic? Summer months, you got all the summer traffic coming through town. Harvest as well, all the harvest crews moving through town with oversized loads. Traffic turning off the overpass. The other day I was waiting to come into town. You could fit, it was 2 semi trailers, 2 cars and pickup, and that's all that could fit coming off the overpass and things like that. Any more than that, it could be traffic blocking that intersection. And then there are times, especially in the morning, when you see people trying to get their kids to school, they have a hard enough time with 4 lanes of traffic trying to make left-hand turn. I've seen several almost accidents where people pull out getting impatient. When they have to wait for a whole solid line of traffic, I can see that being a bigger issue. Those are most of the problems that we see with it. For people getting impatient, there are people that like to drive through town at 15 miles an hour, which now it's fine, you can go around them in the other lane, but when there's 1 lane, I can see people getting very impatient with that. But like Chuck said, we would ask that you rescind that too. I just don't see how this can be beneficial for traffic moving up and down Highway 30. Especially with the amount of semis that we have coming through town. And as Jay said, I mean, the amount of trucks they have coming in and out of Silver, any of those trucks that are heading eastbound. Or they'll go on west, they can take the right out west. So, I mean, those are our concerns. I have questions. But we just wanted to bring it to your attention that how we do not support that change at all.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening, everybody. Randy Fairkeith, County Attorney. I'm still going through a lot of the documents. I made a public records request, which got me a call from the Department of Transportation's attorney. I guess he didn't like my request. Then I copied everything, so he sent me a huge zip drive, just got here today. I would tell you, I think the design of this is idiotic. I can't believe that somebody would think that this would make sense if they'd ever been out here in the summer. Not only we have to take into consideration the sale barn trucks, every time there's a sporting event coming down Highway 30 from East O, what this is gonna effectively do is, in my opinion, push all the traffic to local highways, through local neighborhoods, through all of the 4-way stops where we don't have stop signs, where we have unsigned and just open intersections. If you go out and take a look, and just any time of the day when there's some amount of traffic, whether it be 5 o'clock, 3:30 in the morning when they're going to school, the amount of traffic that is in both of those lanes is pretty substantial. When you leave a game at night, the backup
if you're coming and trying to leave East O to get onto the interstate, the concept that people are somehow gonna get better turning just makes absolutely no sense, because if you look at the design, they're talking about putting in pedestrian spots where people walk across. There, people are gonna wait a lot longer to be in that left-hand lane to turn. What's gonna effectively happen is, even when you're talking about trucks coming off the Highway 61 to head west to the cell barn, if that Spruce Street is turned red, you're just gonna back up traffic. We see that happen all the time. And I think we're gonna have the same type of chaos you have at Walmart. When people are trying to get on the interstate to head home, heading east back or heading west, back to Denver. And so I do think that, it doesn't make any sense to me. I think someone had said, well, there might be some benefits for the storm drain, but I looked at their roadway design, unless it's changed. They're gonna, no repairs are gonna be anticipated for the multi-span box culvert bridge. And looking through this proposal, it's hilarious, I swear a lawyer wrote this little sentence: to preserve the transportation asset, improve the reliability of the transportation system, and perpetuate the mobility of the traveling public by reducing roads. That just seems astronomically idiotic to me, that we're gonna push people to these other roads. I'd like to know what type of measurements was used, much like Chuck Graff talked about, the amount of, says First Street average daily traffic for the year. I'd like to know what size of traffic he's looking at, with regard to what I received from the state today. Just doesn't seem phenomenal if they're measuring the size of the vehicles that we have traveling. We have a lot of people in multi-trailer units, trucks, with trailers, obviously with the tourists. And I think Chuck makes a good point with regard to the fact that we're not gonna have tourists wanting to come through here if they're gonna be backed up. There's enough of a wait as it is. If you start reducing the amount of lanes that people can filter into when they get into our community, it's just gonna be terrible in my opinion. Same condition with regard to turning right, and when you're heading on any of those ways, if you've got a small vehicle trying to turn right up West Day or some other location with an 18-wheeler behind it, we're gonna have some problems. And I just can't believe that. I think what I heard when I talked to Chief Herman about it is something about this will reduce the number of rear-end accidents or some concept of that, because we'll have a turning lane, a suicide lane, in my opinion. That's what we used to, I don't know if we're from here, but in Texas, it's called a suicide lane because you're effectively pushing so many people to go head on. It creates problems. So looking at this, I think it's important to understand that while this may seem likely to some traffic engineer somewhere else, I don't think they're taking into account the tourists and the type of businesses that we have here. I will tell you, we had the same thing happen when we wanted to start the Scooters Coffee. The population said, we don't want to do anything there. This is a small town. You guys can live with whatever happens. And they were wrong. And I think the way that they have this design for some concept that they're going to take away all of our lanes of traffic is just completely incorrect. I looked on the calendar schedule and they talk about they're going to go and also take up and have to maybe get some rights of access. I don't know if that's still in the making. If we're going to do that, then let's spread it out and do 4 lanes and do a lane in the middle that's just going to be for vehicles only to turn left. There's got to be a better way to do this than to take away our lanes of traffic. And I'm sure, I thought it was also interesting. He says, well, we're going to get a 19 to 47% overall crash reduction. And then it's in there. It's only nationally. I don't see that happening locally. I actually think we'll see more crashes as people try to make their way through a narrow passageway to get 1 lane each way. So, and I'm sure all of you have experienced the bypass road when it takes place, that whenever we have accidents out on the interstate, it's backed up forever. Those are the people that know they have to get back on the interstate. What is that going to do to our local traffic? And part of what we're designing for is continually to be made sure that we are the bypass spot. So just understand that we are the bypass spot when something happens on the interstate. And so that's going to continue to occur. So I think that the concept, while lovely in the pictures, I guess, it looks all cute, nice little middle of America, nice small town, but it's just not prudent and not reasonable in my opinion. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy.
Anybody else?
Why the council went along with that proposal without asking questions?
Great thinking.
You got this?
Yep.
the state of Nebraska came to us in 2022. They met with our department, our street superintendent, we met with the chief of police. We, at that meeting, expressed our concerns over managing the 4 lanes. At that particular time, they had some structures that they were also designing into the highway. At that meeting, they said, well, if you'd rather not do it this way, then we've got other projects to do.
So have they completed those situations?
Well, they're building roads all the time.
No, have they completed what they wanted to do here in town?
No, I mean, they've got other places to do projects.
Well, their only project that I've seen that they've done is move the island back on the viaduct.
This was in regard to specifically to Highway 30.
I think what Kevin's trying to say is, if we don't agree with them, they might not give us the money, they'll take it to other projects. Is that
Well,
a similar explanation?
What's
Let's
their
get to
other
brass
project?
tacks.
What were they gonna do on Highway 30?
No, not here. They'll take the money.
No,
to some
no,
other
what-
location.
They won't do anything.
No, I
They'll
think
take
what
it
his
to another
question,
community.
Yes, but what were they gonna do with the money if you said, yes, we'll agree to it? What were they gonna do?
They'll put it into other projects elsewhere.
Okay, no, they were gonna just move the lanes.
I
How
think
much paint does that take?
well, I think what Kevin was initially saying is what they were initially looking at that they presented was to put islands all the way across Highway 30. So you'd have center concrete islands. That was one of the things I believe we were able to get them not to do, because of course, snow removal, all that would have been a huge pain. You
Okay.
can't go back when you have that issue.
Okay, so
So
they
that's what he
eliminated
was
that.
talking about.
What else were they gonna do?
And then do the 2 lanes like I said. That's what they were looking at initially.
Okay, so
Now,
that's
we're
what-
discussing,
what
we're
we said.
discussing
we're saving
incorporating.
money by not doing it.
Stormwater was one of the things that was mentioned.
So we added.
We added.
And that would be, while the efficiencies, we have a stormwater drainage project that would benefit from the efficiencies of doing that while the road was tore up. And the plan, I think they're gonna completely tear up the highway from Spruce Street over to D or it's on the maps, but we're going to enhance the storm drainage while we have the road tore up. And that will be a cost share primarily with the city of Ogallala on the upsizing of that drainage. Which gets water moved to the river quicker. But that's separate from the highway, but incorporated within the highway design.
Another reason that we requested that they don't put in any islands or any hard structure, just stripe it, is that if it doesn't work, all we gotta do is restripe it. Thing is, we're getting the money from the state to do it. It's
What percent of that cost share?
what did you have any idea what we are?
On the road itself, it's a state project.
No, on the storm sewer.
On the drainage, they'll pay for we have to pay for all the upsizing. And until we get into the final engineering on that, right now, if we bore the entire cost of the drainage, it's estimated about $9.5 million.
And it rains twice a year.
Feels like more.
Well, I don't believe it's a cost saving. Kevin can correct, or just from what I remember from back, is if we say no, not only do we not get the work to be done, but I believe we are then responsible to actually do the work. We're not exempt from it. We're still required to meet state standards, so the city would actually take the brunt of having to fix that entire way.
And we probably have to do it the way the state wants.
Yeah, so we're
right?
still regulated.
Yeah.
So we can tell them no, but then we are responsible then for that entire project and cost.
Eventually, the road will fall into disrepair.
I still ask for it to be rescinded.
So if you're saying we can restripe it, wouldn't that come under the same type of restriction that we'd have with the speed limits? We'd have to just say, hey, here's a nice little letter that says, please restripe it, and they can say penalty.
The case would be made that their lane design did not work as promised.
And then they would still have the final say as to whether or not they.
They would still have the final say as to what would be done.
It's, the thing, the bottom line is, it's their highway. they have the engineers that are telling us, you know, what works, what doesn't. We have,
They make mistakes too.
they make mistakes too, but, you know what? We use engineers all the time and we rely on them for their expertise. I mean, I wouldn't go
Hire
to,
an engineer here.
I wouldn't hire a department roads guy to tell us how to sell cattle at the sale barn. You know?
Maybe I'll hire an engineer that lives here in Oklahoma.
You know, we were talking about, you know, reduction in speed, it says like, will lowering the speed limit reduce speeds. Federal Highway Administration research shows that there's little change in the speed pattern after the posting of a reduced speed limit. The driver is much more influenced by the roadway environment. So if you give them one lane, they're gonna slow down.
What is the proposed cost of the project? Highway 30, resurface?
According to the STP, the Surface Transportation Plan, I think it's, what did I tell you, Kevin?
8.3 million.
8.3 million.
Just for the road,
That's just for the road.
and our cost, if we let them do it, is how much there? 10%?
Our costs of what?
8.3 million.
Is it like the airport where you do a 90-10?
No, that's their. cost.
Straight state, okay,
That's the state's cost.
very good, thank you.
And they are actually doing, not the full 3 miles, they're doing 2.1 miles, right, Kev?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
And that's not all tear up, that's,
Refurbished.
yeah.
I'd like to just kind of comment on this, and first I'll say this is. There's a lot of different ways to cut this, and I've gone back and forth for and against this Highway 30 multiple times. And trying to really wrap my head around it, and today I was going, you know, I wonder. How could we collect information from the people? And I remember we just recently did a community vision survey. And I thought, you know, it'd be interesting to see what the people answered in there. So I just want to go over a couple quick things. We had 336 responses out of that. How satisfied are you with the following aspects of community services, road and sidewalks, sidewalk condition? 71.2% of people were dissatisfied, 28.8% satisfied. Ranking the following reasons in order of importance of why you choose to live in Ogallala. The number one reason why people choose to live in Ogallala is safety. And the very last choice is transportation infrastructure. Public services or infrastructure improvements you think are most needed in the community. Roadway repairs 100% must have. 100% of people said must have or nice to have. Improve traffic. 83.4% said must have or nice to have. 16.7% of the people said it's completely not needed. So I see it multiple ways. People are very frustrated with road conditions and traffic flows currently. And the thing I always go back to is it is fundamentally our job to find facts and prove why we make decisions. If we can find facts and we can prove why we make a decision, then that's good enough, but we have to be able to find the facts. And you know, I have to be honest, this Highway 30, it feels like, okay, the fact of doing it is trust the engineers, it's better. The other side says, the fact is common sense, reducing our lanes in half makes no sense. That doesn't make sense. So do we have the proper data and the proper facts to make this decision? This is one of the highest important, you know, one of the most important subjects to the people of the community. You know, I understand the engineers say this is better, but what's their data based off of? I've seen the traffic counts from 2017, 2021, but it shows the year, it doesn't show the date. Was that a slow day? Was that a slow week?
They leave them there for generally an extended period of time.
Was that winter? You know, we know traffic tends to be slower in the winter, or was it summertime where we were not calculating east and west traffic for school? and sporting events. Again, our job is to find facts, and I don't really have any facts to go off of other than trust the engineer. I look back on my time doing design and engineer for a telecom company, and when we had really, really good data in, we could provide phenomenal designs on the output side. But you make a mistake on one or two little things and it ruins the entire picture. Simply put, I want to be able to find the facts and prove why. And it's kind of difficult. I know there's a whole financial side of this that we're trying to, do the stormwater. I understand the financial side of that. We have that responsibility to you guys as taxpayers as well as to financially protect you as well. So we have to weigh that. Not easy. But do we have enough facts?
Well, we hope that, through the state's traffic study and analysis, they would. I mean, we could take another look at that report. We could have a briefing with Department of Roads, somebody come out and have them talk to us.
We could ask somebody from the Department of Roads to come and make a presentation.
Yep. On why they're doing it.
One additional point. I'm sure that there were engineers involved the way it was set up right now.
Yeah, I'm sure there are. But, things change, things improve.
They had foresight.
Yeah.
Steve, it sounds to me like one of the reasons why the city wants to do this is because while the state's got the highway kind of torn up, it'll help the city get storm drains put in at a reduced price. Is that correct thinking?
The efficiencies gained should benefit the cost.
Okay, so what I'm wondering is the cost of going down to one lane each direction versus doing the future planning on your storm drains and so on and so forth? Is that a legitimate reason to do that?
They happen to be projects that were coinciding when the highway design, I think that was my first month in office, wasn't it, Chief?
It was pretty close.
And they've been working on it prior to that. They started on that project back in 2017. They've done traffic studies every other year from 2017 to 2019, 2021. When we met with them at that particular time, we really reinforced the challenges of the intersection at the highway. Now, later on, I was contacted by another engineering firm who alerted me that in 2019, we had commissioned a drainage study that hadn't moved forward, probably pandemic interrupted. So it made sense to me at that particular time that in the interest of efficiency and the savings of taxpayer dollars, that we combine those two projects because they impacted the same area. Also, it would have disrupted the public at a minimum, as opposed to having two separate projects spread out in two different timeframes. In other conversations moving forward after the resolution, we've had conversations with the state on them cost sharing and the drainage as it relates to, if you're gonna tear up that particular section, you're gonna impact that drainage anyway. So that's gonna be part of your cost. We'll pay for the upsizing rather than bear the whole cost. Those are negotiations that are still going on as we get into more into the final design going forward. If we rescind the resolution and go back to the drawing board, we'll go back to starting those negotiations all over again.
Well, I'd like to bring your attention to the overpass. Now, I realize this isn't comparing apples to apples, but I'm sure most of you remember what the overpass was like when it was just one lane going north and one lane going south. And I ask you, would you like to go back to that today? Just one lane going each direction.
The width of the roadway will not change.
Well, all I'm saying is that two lanes going each direction, I think is gonna be a lot more palatable to the taxpayer. Just my thinking.
So you're telling us we have to convince the state, right? And if you want, I'll send you the zip drive I got
We have to
today.
convince the state.
Cause it's on our end, if we say no, it gets rescinded, we say no. Then they can say, then do you want the roadway?
Rather than saying no, can you, I
Say
don't know,
approve it.
ask some more questions or ask them to redo their data or ask them to ask the businesses that reside on Highway 30? for
That
their
would be
input?
all, yeah,
I
that'd be
mean,
all.
is there any way to negotiate? I feel like you guys just
But that's what he's
said,
been
yes,
doing,
give us
that's
the
what we've
money
been
and we'll
doing
do
since
it.
twenty
We'll let you
twenty-two,
give us an ultimatum, like,
so.
I feel like that's what you're saying is that you were given an ultimatum, like you either take it or you don't, rather than. We would like to work with you. Can we find out a little bit more information first? I don't know that you need to do a bunch more studies, but. You could bring other engineers involved closely to this area, perhaps.
That would be an option. I've lived in other areas where the local government commissioned their own study. They brought their own engineers in. That was in Fremont, Nebraska, where they were negotiating an additional interchange for the 275 bypass. The engineers that they brought in actually were in agreement with the state. In fact, the state was more generous than the engineers that they contracted with.
So I'll
That was one
certainly send the zip
incident.
drive.
That was one incident. But that is a risk that you run.
If you want the zip drive, I'll send it to you. It's got a lot of stuff on it. And I'll ask you to send me the name of whoever I need to call. It's specifically, I mean, there's names in this stuff, but realistically, it's not really giving me the information I
I
need.
think Gary Thayer is still the district engineer for North Platte.
Oh, he'll love me. He loved when I
I
caught him
think
on
he's
Highway
retired.
61 overpass, so yeah, he'll love that.
Well, and
That's-
I mean, just as an FYI, the council had a retreat, I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago. The number one priority for the council was a west interchange that we're gonna be talking to the state about. And it was back in 2005 or 6, you know, the state had plans to put in a west interchange. And
Is that
there
talked about?
was, you know, a group of local businesses that got it shut down. They don't want the west interchange coming in. And the state said, fine, we'll just build the visitor center ourselves, which they just opened it up and it's really a nice facility. But what we call the bypass, that would have connected right to it.
I can't remember which community. Chapel or Kimball or which one, I would invite you to go,
Kimball.
look at what happened when they did that. Kimball did that, they ruined their downtown and started losing population, and they lost a lot of business and a lot of things. I think that from the people I've talked to in Kimball that said, yeah, we thought it'd be a good idea too. That also happened, I want to say over maybe Lamar, Colorado, or somewhere in the little communities there did the same thing. They didn't want trucks and people coming through, so they put in a bypass road and their downtown died. So,
Ours is a safety issue. You ought to know that, right?
yeah, I
When
understand.
if we would have something to the river bridge or the overpass or the railroad crossing, we're going, 12 miles or 7 miles to get around to the south side. We have population go there. So this is not an economic issue for us. This is a safety issue.
I understand that, but let's be realistic. This is an economic tourist town. We get rid of. the
I
tourist companies.
agree. And if we have major accident out south, we need to get to it.
Hey, Kevin, I got a quick couple points and correction. If we do this project the way they want to do it, it'll start in 2027, correct? Around that.
Yes,
timeframe.
that's the scheduled timeframe.
And on this storm drainage stuff, if we don't do this, then not only are we on the hook for the storm drainage totally, but also for the cement that we gotta tear up in where we're doing the storm.
If we do the storm drainage, yeah, we'll have to tear up some road to do that.
Exactly.
Well,
I mean, that's the cost, the biggest portion of the cost savings, if we can get them, if we can negotiate with the state, since they're gonna be tearing up the drainage anyway, they pay for what they tear up and we pay to put it back bigger.
But in tearing up, if we did it ourselves and we paid for, the cement and all that, it would stay striped like it is now, the double lane, double lane.
As far as I know, yes.
And
If we rescind it, the most likely outcome would be the stormwater wouldn't get done, the highway wouldn't get done, and it would kind of all be postponed till maybe 2030.
It would be pushed back and more than likely 2030.
Somewhere in there.
I mean, it's hard to say
Sure.
what's gonna happen. We're you're asking me to predict the future that I don't know, but that would be a reasonable assumption.
We get a stipend from the state for maintenance and snow removal, but it's
Very small.
it's nothing.
I keep going back to just finding the facts and proving why, we received an email from another business owner in Ogallala. I can't help but look around and see community leaders, county attorney, business owners, that email we received today, multi-business owner here in Ogallala. And I thought he provided some very good insight and I might be taking some of this out of context, but ultimately, this design based off of something, some sort of data. And from what I understand, again, because I have not seen all the data and all the factors they took into account, this information is from the past, maybe going back to 2017 on traffic counts. So that's clearly not taking into account what's currently happening with current developments. The casino is anticipating another 800,000 people coming through town, whether that's on Highway 30, I don't know, but is there any future planning to those numbers? And let me, just for the record, I am not a road engineer by any way, so I'm sure this is a little bit out of context, but to give you an idea, I pulled the traffic counts from 2017, right there at the viaduct, the overpass, east and west, and coming over the viaduct. And the total traffic count at that intersection was over 26,000 vehicles, annual average daily traffic. From what I read, that road is rated for 20,000. Again, I just go back to, we have to prove facts and find why. And I think there's some pretty big concerns we probably shouldn't ignore. But I understand the financial side of it, and that's what's really tough here.
Let's get,
See if we can get an engineer in.
NDOT to come out and have, an open house and. I mean, however they want to do the presentation, but, you're right, that. Perfect arrangement would be 2 lanes each way with a turn lane in the middle, but. We don't have a room.
Nice property.
And I've been paying attention to roads now. Going in North Platte, like Jeffers all the way east. That's 2 lanes with a turn lane. Sydney. Through their downtown, it's 2 lanes with a turn lane. But I agree. I'd like to know more information about the counts too.
It also takes special permitting across the state highway, so if we can't utilize the money to get the stormwater across, that takes a whole nother permitting process to be able to excavate that street to get that water through there. Still has to go through the state to be able to happen. So
It shouldn't be a problem, should it, Brandon?
it can be.
Permit,
I don't write that. That's a state highway. That's a state.
well, to get,
So if it was a city project, then it'd be easy to get a permit.
I think we have someone here who's like to make a comment.
Hi, my name is Heather Orth, and I'm actually here, you're gonna love this, my son Isaac is taking a college class and it's on sociology. And he was to come to an open meeting and to learn about what goes on in open meetings, and we thought we'd probably slip in, slip out, and here we are, actually with a topic that does mean something to me. We don't reside in the city limits, but my husband Dennis and his brother own the Culligan Water Conditioning business, which is located just off of Highway 30. And I come from Shadron, where Shadron, about 20 years ago, got forced into this same situation by the state, which said you don't have, if you're gonna redo the highway through your town, you no longer have enough width to it. So you will go down to a lane going east, a lane going west, and a center turn lane. So the same thing you guys are talking about. Shadron is not situated next to I-80. It is never a detour off of the interstate. And it is still extremely difficult to enter the highway from Shadron, which is a population of about 5,000 people, probably going up to 7,500 during the college time that kids are there. Most people were very discouraged by the fact it went to one lane. There are definitely route changes that have happened. My parents still live there. My brother still lives there. I do not travel the same way that I did to get to their house. I turn 2 blocks earlier and I go through a more residential area to get there because it's not as safe to turn where we used to, because you can wait for 2 minutes sometimes to take a left turn in that center turn lane. Knowing that we have a lot of high schoolers, and you know where they like to turn? They like to turn right there by Front Street to go on up to the high school, and I already don't like them sitting there in 2 lanes, you know, making a left turn there with it so busy in the morning. I hate to see that when it's down to 1 lane and you've got major traffic moving through the community. I will also say that Shadron, after having done that, also had the state in their infinite wisdom come to them and say, boy, we really think you should put in a roundabout where 385 meets Highway 20. And it only took business owners coming and saying, that's going to ruin our business. There's no way an 18-wheeler can make a roundabout, for them to finally decide we're not going to go to that. And they worked out a solution that was a little bit better. So I see where the budget thing is probably crazy tough to handle and try to keep it under wraps. But I also see it from the standpoint of community members and how, when you do go to 1 lane traffic, you do affect how quickly people get places, whether or not they're just gonna take the highway bypass and just go towards rural to get on the interstate, or they're just gonna go to Roscoe and get on. They'll just stop using the main part of Ogallala, where many of our businesses are counting on their drive-by business to kind of help bolster their profits as well. So those are just my thoughts from sitting in the cheap seat and seeing what you guys are, and it is, I totally appreciate how you guys have to work through all of these numbers and budget and figures. And I can see it from the other side where people are just saying, hey, in our community, it's not gonna make us seem the most welcoming when we go down to, you know, 1 lane and people are backed up already, sometimes 2 blocks deep, just trying to get, you know, across with the stoplight. So just something to consider, and that was my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Heather. I mean, I think we get the group in here to have that discussion. But even on this stormwater, let's say you take that whole part out. If we as a city say no to a two lane, we kick it down the road. Then they come back in and say roads deteriorate in a couple of years, 2 lane, we say no, road deteriorates. I don't think they're gonna continue to fix it. We can always ask. But it's still gonna be their choice at the end of the day. I mean, we might be able to do convincing arguments, but they can still say no. And that's what everybody has to be prepared for, or the road dilapidates, like. That's what we're gonna end up, you know, with, if we can't change their mind. And sometimes there's no change of mind.
And we don't want the road to get to that condition.
Correct.
We can always hire our own engineer though, right?
Well, we can also, yes, we can hire an engineer, but they cannot accept it too. Cause they can say this doesn't fit, you know, the state engineer. I mean, that's always kind of one of your worries. Plus, you know, we can always say we'll do the road ourselves, which, you know, we don't have the finances to do the road ourselves. So
No,
I think we can always kick it down the road. We can always tell them, you know, change it, which they could or couldn't. We've had that discussion for years now. You know, this isn't just a brand new deal that we're dealing with. It's been on the books since 2017. There's been talks all the way through. I mean, even ever since Kevin came on, it's been nonstop communication. Back and forth in the state saying, we don't like this either, but they continue to push it. So, I mean, I would love for them to change some stuff, but I don't think they will. And we can try.
Did I
But-
hear or read somewhere that the state is not doing a 4 lanes without a turn lane anywhere? They're not building this. They would not build this again. Maybe I,
I've heard that, but I don't know if I've heard it from you or if I've heard it.
No.
Or if you heard it.
anyway, we'll get someone from the state out here, you know what, if they build it, that's great, 4 lanes. You know, we'll keep using it the way it is, then if they tell us, you know, no, you know, it's gotta be our design. Or you need to do it ourselves, then we need to decide, are we gonna take an $8.3 million hit, or just keep pushing it back?
And every year that we wait, that 8.3 million is gonna be bigger. It won't stay 8.3 million.
I mean, I think we'd all love 4 lanes. We all grew up with 4 lanes around here for the most part.
Sure. So I
It was
remember,
My biggest worry is that they may not concede. We've been trying to get them to concede for a long time. We can continue to try. But I think we'll hit that point when if we do tell them no, then they'll hit the point where they'll just move it down the road. And then I said 2030's group will have to do the same thing and be kicked down the road again. So
Yeah, what they're doing are they're staging projects for the future, so they're getting them designed. If they can't design this, then, you know, there needs to come to some consensus of what it is. You know, we have no idea how far out it will be, but let's get the state here and.
It's their case.
Yep,
if we do a public meeting, you know, out there, will that maybe make the state take a stronger look? If we get a whole bunch of people, you know, more than what we have here tonight, get a lot of input from the community, wouldn't it?
it might,
think it would influence
it
them a
might
little.
influence them, but. You know, a lot of guys in my career in local government, working with DOT, they pretty much rely
Yeah.
on their engineers. Chuck, you have something else to say?
Can we dig back to archives and see who the engineer was that came up with 4 lanes?
Got it. You'd probably have to go to, DOT for that. I don't know that,
No, I mean. Which engineer's right?
I don't know that, yeah, I don't know that we would have that.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I thank you. Yep. Anyone else? Going once, going twice.
good conversation.
Yeah,
Don't
and
forget
let's
your phone.
thank everyone. Thank everyone for showing up. Now you can understand the position we're in. I mean, I don't think anybody here on the council feels strongly one way or the other
It did.
about the design. I think ours is more about the economics. So. Moving on, report of clerk treasurer. Nothing tonight. Recommendations, departments, boards and committees. We have the airport amendment number 3 to the agreement for consulting services. Airport Improvement Program project number 3310061 017.
Mr. President, this final design contract to rehabilitate the runway 826 and accompanying. The accompanying. Taxiways. This has been approved by the FAA and DOT. The original fee estimate that came in from the state was significantly higher, but they did not take in consideration the work that we'd already done with our ALP. So I requested that they amend their concurrence down to to what we had already negotiated with those.
Okay.
I'll move to approve amendment number 3 to the agreement for consulting services airport improvement program project number 3-31-0061-017. Authorize council president to sign the agreement.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Laughlin and a second by Councilman Block. There's further discussion. Council, please vote.
Five yes.
Motion carried. Under planning and zoning, we are amending section 31.07.
Mr. President, this is amending the Historic Preservation Commission that we enacted last year, Brandon, about February. I'll take responsibility for needing to amend this. I wanted to step down the requirements that they put into the commission for certain appointments of architects, historians, and the state didn't rejected that after we sent that to them. We're also adding language that establishes the opportunity for historic overlays of our current zoning, which I think Brandon can speak more about as it relates to the Ogallala Middle School, potential Ogallala Middle School project.
Brandon Scott, Planning and Zoning Administrator. So the overlay for this project is all for the middle school, but they're wanting to include the auditorium and the middle school, that separate the parcel that the middle school's on into two separate parcels, and it works better for their grant funding to do it this way. So that's the reason. And also on the amending the ordinance, like Kevin said, there's certain things in there that they didn't like. We had like 4 commission members, and they needed 5 for a quorum. Certain little errors like that I made that are being corrected. And this, like Kevin said, this all comes from the state. This lady has reviewed it and edited it the way that it needs to be for us to receive the funding. So the historic overlay, we only have one particular area in town that is zoned for historic, and that would be the Mansion on the Hill. So this would be just an overlay of that, of the middle school area.
So the districts don't have to be contiguous like a TIF, they can be.
We've been told not.
We've been told not.
So I'm not gonna definitively say that, but that's what we've been told.
So we wouldn't have to necessarily change the zoning of that area because it's a C1 right now. So they're saying this overlay will be.
It's nothing that we deal with frequently either, so. If we have to amend it again, we can, but what I see that this is time sensitive. So we may want to
I would recommend suspending the rules.
suspend the rules and waive the 3 readings, so.
Correct. I would introduce ordinance 1442 and move to suspend the rules so that the ordinance may be read by title and move to passage at this meeting.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilman LeBlanc and a second by Councilman Holstein to suspend the rules. Yeah, there is no further discussion. Could council please vote?
Five yes.
Ordinance 1442, an ordinance amending section 31.07 of the municipal code of the city of Ogallala, Nebraska, regulating historic preservation commission.
I'll move to adopt ordinance 1442.
Steve, would you just announce that motion to suspend the rules was?
Oh, I'm sorry, motion to suspend rules was adopted. Or carried. Sorry. Thank you. We have,
I'll second.
motion by Councilman Holstein, second by Councilman Laughlin to adopt ordinance 1442. Further discussion, could council please vote?
Five yes.
Ordinance 1442 is hereby adopted. All right, moving on. Under police, the installation operation of automated license plate reader on state highway. Resolution 2265.
Mr. President, this is something pretty cool that Officer Riley's been putting a lot of time into and dedication. I'll let him explain it.
That's Raleigh Police Department. I was given a project to do last year, getting automated license plate readers up and going. did a lot of research, went through a company called Flock. Now we're in the permitting process and the resolution process, so funds are already allocated. Just waiting, we have to do a resolution so that we can actually put them up on the states. We're gonna put them up on, some stoplights out by the interchange. So, can be used for missing persons, stolen vehicles. People that have, wanted individuals that are in vehicles, stuff like that, so. Pretty cool technology.
Speeding tickets?
Nope. Nope, it is just merely, it is not a traffic cam. It does not do red light violations. It merely captures photograph of a license plate, puts it in the database.
Like an Amber Alert would.
Amber Alert, yep, and we're integrated with every Flock system out there, so Kearney has a bunch of them, or Platte. I think Sydney, Perkins County has them, and then Denver area is just, if your car gets stolen here and it makes it down to Denver, we'll be alerted where it's at, and we can do the proper stuff there, so.
And we're gonna do 2 of them.
2 cameras and a mobile, so we'll have one that we can put anywhere in Keith County, so.
So I gotta set up like, the speed limit signs or whatever.
Nope, it's pole mounted, so, as long as there's not issues with any state-owned signage, it can be mounted to virtually anything. Yes, it's got a cell phone SIM card in it that does its thing.
How long does it take once it gets hit to actually, once it discovers the vehicle has say been stolen out of Denver to the area? How long does it take that, once it takes a picture, scans it, that time frame until law enforcement gets notified? Because local law, it takes what, 2-3 minutes to get out of city
Sure.
limits?
The way I have the LPRs that are gonna be positioned, it's gonna be essentially somebody stopping off to either go south or north into town to get gas. We won't have any that move east and west, so they're not gonna take pictures on the interstate, but Flock boasts up to 30 seconds, which there are times we get bolos that are 2-3 minutes and we still find them if they're still in the area, so. If we do get an alert and our officers aren't able to find whatever, we can alert, State Patrol or Lincoln County, whatever way we think they've gone, we can alert them and gives us that advantage, so.
So is the sheriff's office gonna get alerts too, or just you guys?
So right now it is funded through the drug fund. So, State Patrol, Sheriff's Office and the Police Department will all have. I will be like the administrator of it. And then we'll just have to set up profiles for everybody. State Patrol already has LPRs. So this is just another tool that the Keith County troopers can use. Stuff like that. So it can also be used for investigations if you're trying to track a vehicle throughout. Where someone's been going, so. Yeah, no red light cam, no stoplight cam, nothing like that, just license plates.
This coincides with a lot of the state activity. They're really trying to put a lot more effort into a lot of these cameras across the state. So if they're tracking the various vehicle that may be suspected of something, it's a lot easier to follow it. Make sure that they're going in the direction they want, makes bus a lot easier. And we just be at the tail end and then, makes it a lot easier on our department.
Yep.
Especially the state. And the state's had a lot of great luck from what I've heard, stateside, tracking down cars, tracking down a lot, especially drug paraphernalia that comes through. Some really bad people have been stopped with this system across the state.
Do they in human trafficking too?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge.
Very good for good people. It's very bad for lawbreakers.
Yes.
Yep.
I appreciate all your work on this.
I agree. This is really, really good. For an interstate town, it's surprising we don't have this already.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would introduce resolution 2265 and move for its adoption.
Well, second.
A resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement with the Nebraska Department of Transportation for installation and operation of automated license plate reader on the state highway. We have a motion by Councilman Laughlin and a second by Councilman Dupierre. There is no further discussion. Council, please vote.
5 yes.
Resolution 2265 is adopted.
Jeff, if you can put a really big thing in the paper that says not a speed limit.
No,
Because we're not
no,
gonna-
don't let them know.
Oh, you're so much.
Great, I don't need any bigger jail.
They don't, yeah, they don't need to know.
Mhm.
Uh,
do.
Great, Rick grant application for flood protection for the city of Ogallala and surrounding areas, RFQ.
Mr. President, this was an RFQ that's required by the grant funders to put this out for proposal. We put this out for proposal a month or so ago. We received one response from Olson and Associates. The Olson Associates is also the ones that's been working on this drainage study since 2019. In order to get into the April grant funding deadline. That's why we accelerated this process, and we have a qualified consultant.
This really just plays hand in hand with the Highway 30, right? Project.
Hopefully, yes.
Tell me, what is BRIC in acronym?
Building resilient infrastructure communities. It is a EPA funded grant opportunity.
We still have an EPA?
Yeah. Like I told you before, I'm moving ahead, whether the federal government catches up with us, we'll see.
Hopefully, we're not throwing money down a rat hole on a lot of this. We'll keep charging ahead.
Based on review of the submission, I'll move to approve the Olson Associates as qualified consultants for the BRIC grant application for flood protection for the city of Ogallala and surrounding areas.
I'll second. We have a motion by Councilman Laughlin and a second by Councilman Holstein. No further discussion. The council, please vote. Motion carried.
4 yes, 1 abstain.
I see ex-councilman Weddington out there. I almost said, second by Councilman Weddington. Report of city attorney.
I am happy to report that my father is in fact alive.
And
Other than that, I have no report.
and he's still riding around on his horse and buggy. So, okay, city manager, project updates.
Well, I'm gonna give you an opportunity to promote Alliance for Clean Energy with hopefully you're all willing to, or as a PACE community. We get the benefit of being a good supporter of PACE. PACE supports several projects. I'll get you one, Austin. I've got some wires here for you. Open enrollment begins next week, Jane? Next week or the week after. So if you would, the Alliance for Clean Energy is good for Ogallala. Back in the 80s, when Kansas, Nebraska had the P802, you remember that, Steve? The P802 contract when gas prices went through the roof. Communities came together and formed what was called the Public Alliance for Clean Energy, but there's some copyright infringement, we had to drop the P. What this does is this provides a competitive, competitive option of your gas supplier. So with that, I think I'll let that be for tonight.
Okay. Report city council members, the Board of Health has not met, Ogallala Community Hospital and Health Foundation. We continue to pursue the ambulance facility. Or I should say EMS facility on ground owned by the hospital in that area. So we should be having some meetings and some news to update probably within the next 30 days. So that's all I have. Councilman Lampton.
Library board, they are fastly approaching their summer reading programs and their adult programs that they do, which includes like crocheting and painting projects that they do on the adult side. The summer programs for the kids are excellent. They put together, usually a plethora of things for the kiddos. They always try to promote summer reading, but also outside of that, they've had Build-A-Bear in there. They've done activity days out there. Everybody remembers the big open house that we did. They want to do more and more community events out there. They're in that first part of the swing. Believe it or not, we're almost to summer when you're looking at programming. So be looking for a lot of those things to start coming out within the next 30 days so that parents can start making those plans. So YMCA will not meet until the 4th of April.
And everything is going well at the Y.
Haven't heard anything negative. I actually have meetings that Melissa and I have set up. We're meeting quarterly now so that she can kind of have that person. Of course, Conrad's in town, but this creates another avenue to where not only can council be involved, but then the YMCA and Scottsbluff kind of here's two different sides to it, which is good. Seeing everything that's out there. As we all know, there's a lot of stuff going on with outdoor, indoor pool all the time with membership stuff. From the last YMCA meeting, like I said last time, we had this update. YMCA of Scottsbluff is very happy with our area. We've had no fall off on memberships. We've actually gained, we're actually faster gaining than any of their other parts of their community. So they're just happy with how everything's working. They're happy with staffing. There's going to be some pool changes that they're kind of working on, some repairs, some ways to flush the system with their special technicians. Getting all those pieces together is really going to happen over the summer. There was some conversation about the outdoor pool timeframes and stuff like that, but so far I haven't got to that update. I won't do that until the 4th. So
we've made improvement that we've finally gotten where the door doesn't suck shut when you open it. Have you noticed that, Mike?
I have.
Yep.
That's a big improvement.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I about broke my wife's arm. So that's
How much heat are we saving?
Yeah, that too.
Cause that was going right up the roof, wasn't it?
I think they had a heart attack when it came to the heating bill the first time around, because it was, I think what they say triple their facilities just for the amount being exhausted. And now that that's been changed, they should see that first leveling out here soon.
I think that was a very good move on council's part to that contract with the Y.
I think people have probably seen too in the newspaper, they're already asking for, or not newspaper, it was online. Can't remember which one I saw it on. Asking for applications for swimming pool, for lifeguard, and for all the summer stuff, so they're getting geared up.
It was advertising.
Okay. Great. Anything else?
That's it on my end.
Okay, Councilman Block.
On the chamber, on the tourism side, Sean did 4 shows. He did Denver show, Lincoln show, Omaha show, and Cheyenne show, and he said they were all pretty well attended. So, and he was there from Keith County, Lake McConaughey, Oglala.
Great.
Yeah. They have a list of upcoming events. And I don't know how many of them to read. You want me to read that? They have their entire year planned out. Just how much of that do you want me to read? Or do you want to read, hear any of it?
Yeah, please.
Okay. The annual Drover Golf Tournament is in June of 2025. Sounds on the Square are scheduled May through July. Kites and Castles is scheduled to end July. The Keith County Fair Parade is in August. The 41st Annual Oglala Indian Summer Rendezvous is scheduled in September. The Halloween Parade and Truck is October 25. The Keith County Craft Fair is in November. Keith County Parade of Lights, of course, is in December. And the annual Ag Banquet will be in June of 2026. They've been working on different ways for the membership, be more creative, so the people get more bang for their buck. That's about it there. And on KCAD, Corey had mentioned, Corey Crandall out in the audience there had mentioned that he has a shortened version of the Perkins County Canal presentation. If anyone would like to go back and see it, he could accommodate us on that. I went to a meeting and it was about an hour, but your presentation is way shorter than that, right?
Yeah, it covers basically.
Yeah. Sean announced at the meeting that, the chamber has their new director hired. And he started Monday, March 24th. And I say he, I think it's a he.
No name?
No name. He didn't give a name. Let me look. One of the houses sold, Glen home in Flansburgh subdivision sold, so there's one of them homes that sold up there.
Oh, Glenstead?
Can,
Yeah.
he can, he fixed the fence.
He
Yeah.
did?
He
Okay,
did.
I didn't know that.
He did.
And lastly, they had a meeting, the Progressive Business Group, positioning your business for success, that was held at Mid Plains Community College and Keith County Area Develop KCAD, and also the chamber partner with them. And Jane was at the meeting. I was unable to attend to the meeting, so she could just give us a little bit of an update what you saw at that
I
meeting.
can, a lot of this is gonna be probably just a review for the council. You've kind of been involved in this project all along, but the main points that Sharon Hessel have talked about was that the total project bringing to our community about $100 million racetrack and resort. Stages are the racetrack and the barn are first, and they're gonna get the temporary casino up and running as well. They plan to have the first race Labor Day weekend and have the temporary casino open hopefully if they get their licensing done by the end of December this year. And then they'll follow with more barns, a clubhouse, and the permanent casino. And then once the permanent casino is up and running, that temporary casino will be remodeled into office space and jockey headquarters, which that was something new I hadn't heard. That was interesting. Their casino floor will have slot machines, table games, poker room, sports book. I think we kind of knew that. They plan to have 350 to 400 jobs once the permanent casino is up, with $17 million in payroll annually. The average hourly FTE wage is $18, and that does include their tips. One of the mottos that Sharon said that she likes to put out to their employees is work while others play, so you can play while others work, which I thought that was kind of fun. And she did then express the desire to work with the local businesses. If anybody's interested in partnering with them on any kind of, campaigns to help your business, as long as with the casino, that they want to get involved with the local smaller businesses to help them survive the transition. And then one thing she did say also was, we've all heard this, rising tide lifts all ships, and that's what they work that's their philosophy. That's all I have. If anybody has any questions.
The only other thing that I would add is, you did great, is the benefits that they get. They want their employees to be involved in the community. And they have a pot, and I don't know what that pot is, but the employees can be rewarded out of that pot. They want community involvement with all their employees.
Yeah, they turn in their hours of service in the community, and if they get so many hours, then they get entered into like drawings, but that the employees don't get that money. They get to donate that
To of their
to a cause.
to a cause of their choice. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
That's it.
All right, thank you. Councilman Dupierre.
West Central Nebraska Development District, no update there. We've had a very tough time getting in contact and we're working on that. West Central Nebraska Joint Housing Authority, we have not had a meeting. We'll have a meeting April 17th. I did contact Chelsea just to check in, see how things are going. She did receive her federal funding good through September, so things look good for her. She's happy. No concerns at this time.
Good. Thank you. Councilman Holstein.
Keep County beautiful, but March 12th, I wasn't able to attend the meeting. I gotta reach out to Chris and find out when the April meeting is gonna be. And WRG has not met. I expect them to meet in April.
We are doing our spring cleanup with WRG, the
Last 2 weeks of April.
last 2 weeks of
I don't know how many people go out to
We increased it from 1 to 2 this year.
WRG, but they've really cleaned the place up. I mean, they sprayed the weeds, they've got things organized, really looks nice. They do a lot of business.
You know, if WRG offers tire removal during those 2-week cleanups.
No.
Maybe in September, out in the rural. That's part Keith.
USR takes the tires. They'll take tires. They partner with WRG, so.
Okay. There's nothing further from the council. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
We have a motion by Councilman Block and a second by Councilman Dupierre to adjourn. Council, please vote.
I said WRG. Sorry.
Actually, no, you said.
Fine, yes.
Carrie, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Don't forget your wires, fellas.
You too?
See you, buddy.